Okay, so anyways, I wanted to talk about the NFL and NFL and racism. Not like in and of and separate from each other. Okay, so um, how did you feel about Kaepernick sitting for the flag or kneeling for the flag? How do you feel where it's gone, Griffin, and what do you think about it?
I think he had a right to take a knee. Is that what he took a knee? He didn't sit down. I think he had a right to take a knee, and the 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 lashing he took, I don't feel was appropriate for what his expression was. It's not as if he didn't play the game. It's not as if he threw the game. He was being an individual human being that had a voice. And Griffin said, for me, there needs to be some room for acceptance and hearing and seeing what other people's viewpoints are, even if you think it's bullshit or you don't like it. Because if you find yourself in the position of wanting to come together or heal, understand people, but yet you're the one saying that's wrong and you can't do that, you're just as bad off as the rest of them.
Right,
So, where are we going to slow down and just listen?
right.
Oh, so that backlash and what they did and everything, it changed. So it messed with ticket sales, it messed with everything. I don't know this story. Sorry, and I just briefly heard before we came in here that something happened in Vegas. So I'm a little,
That's okay.
you know me, I don't watch
No,
TV.
it's good. It's good. All good. So okay, so then President Trump made a comment about they should get fired if they take a knee. So then everyone took a knee that wasn't really even participating, kind of like in a in a stance of we stand together, like you can't bully us. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of got a big mess, and that messed with the ticket sales, and yeah, and took away from talking about CTE for us.
Of course it did.
Right. It's just another smoke and mirrors at the end of the day, you know.
Oh, right. Wait, I don't understand. Do that one more time. I asked briefly, well, why would the president get involved in blocking us talking from CTE? But then Griffin just threw out the whole talk about the stadiums and the economy in the cities and what really brings in the most money, and that even positions like people are paid off with this sports money from the stadiums.
Hmm.
So it goes up and up and up. He says, "You hear me, Dill?" Wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, everybody's paid off in this life for sure.
But this, do it again. When I see a city and I see a stadium in it, the stadium runs like an independent city,
Okay.
like tax wise, everything done in it. And this doesn't.
It definitely runs as an independent city. There's 100,000 people. There's 20 restaurants, 20 places where you can get food and water, 20 places where you can get jerseys, 20 places where you can get any other concession you can possibly imagine. I don't know.
But it's weird. The city pays for the stadium, but then all the profits and everything that's run off the stadium doesn't go to the city.
No, they don't go to the city.
What the hell happens with that?
Well, before, keep going.
We put all this money into it, and that money stays there, and it doesn't come back to the city. But to have the stadium is to have your city on the map. So the profits that come off of this with the games played in the stadium, other higher ups like government, political, and everything are paid to get those stadiums to be maintained by the cities and everything. It's like they're not reinvesting and paying for their own
No, they're not.
Right. I heard that
Place to play.
I heard that
Because
they
if
were,
each city wants a landmark to bring in tourism and money, they have to provide it for themselves. And like, so it's totally jerry rigged. It's totally jerry rigged. It's totally fucked up. Like the fact that like a lot of the profits aren't going back to city and aren't going back to, I don't know, you go back to 100 different things you can bring up, but
All right, is this like known?
no,
Do
it's
people
not
know
known.
this?
But like you bring it up as a like fact and it is known, and then all of a sudden people wipe it away as if it's not really happening. But like you're bringing up facts on paper.
That's a huge injustice. Griffin saying it's such a wear and tear on the city, on the streets, on the people who live there, who invest in it, that they aren't getting the wealth and the support from it. So to make sure that the game is not jeopardized, people higher up are paid off so that they will help divert attention away from CTE so that that's not a thing. So we know that football doesn't need to change.
what was I going to say? So, do you think CTE will come back to the forefront, Griff? Or
Yes, because there will constantly be somebody else who's reporting symptoms. And the more living people that step forward with the symptoms, they're the ones, their families, their wives, their kids are the ones who are going to make the laws bend.
right?
He still sees a huge suing.
Big time.
Hmm.
Did you see Griffin where Aaron Hernandez's daughter? She's only 4 years old, is suing the NFL for taking her dad away from her. He killed himself in prison. Did you see that?
He said yes. I've not seen that. He said that was the most touching thing. And he says, you know what? That was her idea. He goes, that wasn't like family saying, we're going to do it in her name to make a point. She wanted to know who was responsible. And when she was told, and she asked why, and, where are they? And then when they started talking to her straight up, she agreed she wanted everything done that way.
Wow. But that's a landmark case because if that goes through, then Dylan can do that. All the kids can do that lost their fathers to the game.
Griff says it's time. Why aren't we doing it now?
Right. I agree. I agree. Um, it's weird how CTE will raise its head and then Deflategate will come where the balls didn't have enough air and to tell Jamie and like there's always these things and not that taking a knee and what they're talking about isn't important, but CTE never gets to raise its head and get completely finished, you know?
Mm-mm. It's going to be years before it's finished because the finished product is having the game change.
Right. Right. It amazes me that people know about it and they're still willing to play.
Fame and glory, Mom.
Right. It's the lifestyle.
Hmm. He goes, what would you do right now if I told you cars are dangerous? You can't ever use a car again.
Right.
Would you still? Probably because you wanted to get to the grocery store. Even though I gave you all the facts, I showed you how they're dangerous and how many lives they take and everything.
Right.
Still, people would buy a new one and get in it and drive.
Right.
He goes, this is what's happening. This is how it's blinding people. People don't want to see it.
Because of the lifestyle.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do they really like know about like the symptoms of CTE and choose fame and glory? Because I find that really hard to believe.
Yes, because they've never experienced any pain like that before, Dill. They have nothing to compare it to. So it's like getting your head hit and having a headache. Yeah, I can deal with that for 40 million, for 10 million. They have no idea what the symptoms really are. No one can explain it unless they go through it.
Why does it make the fans so fucked
I
up?
don't know. No, it's not. He goes, is that like childbirth? And I was like, no, no, it's not. Because some people have babies and they're like fine.
Right. I guess it's like just talking about something that's abstract, going to the old saying, if you haven't walked in those shoes, you just won't accept it.
You have no idea. He goes, wouldn't it be great if there was like a CTE simulator? Like you simulate being in a hurricane, like the wind flies all around you. They're like, we put these things in your head and you're like, here's a simulator of what CTE is. Still want to play football?
Right, right. Because it goes,
Fail.
yeah, it goes to youth and thinking that you'll just never be there.
I like that right now when it's underground because of the news out right now, it is reaching the hands of some really wonderful researchers. It is getting out there in podcasts, radio shows. It's being talked about on a ground level now that it's quiet out of the mainstream. And so more and more people are getting educated. And he goes, they're not necessarily number one football fans, but they're people who are going to demand that something change, just like Dill wanting to protect other people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe Dill just wants to tell them that they're stupid. But
right.
Well, they are. I mean,
could the name of your book be You're Stupid?
yes.
yeah,
Straight talk.
right. No, it can't be.
Yeah, you could. I could write it on the title.
Yeah. That's funny. You're stupid. What are you reading? You're stupid. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I was gonna be I'm stupid. So when they say it aloud, they say I'm stupid. I don't want them starting any fights with any other people
yeah.
by going around saying you're stupid. But if they just say I'm stupid,
Your grandmother thinks that's hysterical. Your mom's laughing so hard.
right?
That's it.
Right? Right?